So I know that I'm not in my typical setting, but this is something that was very important for me to record now because I could feel the gravitas in just how important this really was. I've been having a hard time lately with something that I have to do, a certain way that I have to live according to my service for Father. And I'm hoping that's not going to be in the way. There we go. That should fix it. And I'm just going to be transparent and raw because I feel like being transparent is really the best way to reach anyone, and not hiding something, not refusing to talk about certain things because it may be embarrassing. So I'm just going to tell you because I know that in what I'm about to say, being raw and open with what I do as a servant of Yah, hopefully will help you with the things that you yourself may be going through right now. Being in the position that I'm in, when I decided to go into Father's service, probably 8 years ago now, I was 22, I'm 30 now, and he called me out and said that I would serve him. And he didn't tell me in what way. It was going to be multifaceted, and he basically told me that I was going to go about it in different ways as I went. He would instruct me and lead me and guide my life as I went along. And along the way, Father has promised me things. He's told me things that I'll do, things I'll receive. One of the things that was the most difficult for me when I started to serve him, and then I went through the rest of my 20s, was being single. One of the things the Father told me that I had to do was, he said I wasn't allowed to date, I wasn't allowed to have a woman, I wasn't allowed to get married until the time when he was ready and he brought who I was supposed to wed along to me. And when I first went into serving Father, when I was 22, I didn't know what I was getting into. And it was easier for me to make the decision then because, when you're young and you're in your teens and you get in your 20s, you're not really thinking so much about relationships. You're thinking about who you're going to marry. You're not thinking about long-term relationships. And there's a big difference for both men and women between their 20s and their 30s. 30s is considered the prime of human life. That's when men and women are the most beautiful, they're the most physically fit, they have the ability to be the most physically fit. Men reach their prime physically and sexually. So as the years started to roll by, and I thought when I first started serving Father when I was 22 that the things he told me was going to happen would happen very soon. And there's a whole lot of people that I know thought the exact same thing. I mean, Avraham and Sarah waiting for their promised son that Father told them they would have, Isaac. And they waited and waited and waited. Avraham was about 75 years old. Sarah was in her early 70s or late 60s. And Isaac wasn't born to Avraham until he was, I believe he was right at or actually at 100 years old. And Sarah was in her 90s, which was impossible in of itself, the miracle, because she had already been through her change of life. Obviously, she shouldn't have been able to have born children. So there are plenty of examples of especially scriptural servants who waited and waited and waited and thought that what Father told them was going to happen would happen really, really fast. And there have been many people that nobody knows about who has served Father over the years, centuries, who waited and waited and waited, and their time was not in any way, shape, or form Father's time. Oh, and just so you know, I'm not wearing underwear. I'm actually wearing sports shorts. I just want to make sure that you guys know I wasn't sitting here talking to you in my underwear. Anyway, so when I started to get older and I started to go through my 20s, I hit my late 20s, and then it really started to hit me. I started to go into my prime. I got close to 30, and the next thing you know, still waiting, still doing the service that Father has me doing. And my service for Father has changed many times. I mean, I did live ministry for a time. I had actual congregation services, and then he had me stop that and do other things. My service has been multifaceted. I've done many different things. And on top of changing things up, and then still waiting, still not having a wife, still not used to being alone, as time went on, it really, really started to get me up here. Yeah, it really started causing me a lot of issues and problems, because I was never like most people who their goals in life are material. They want to get a great job. They want to achieve some great post in a career. They want to have a huge, nice house. They want to have a bunch of cars. They want to have money to provide for all their hobbies. I've always been immaterialistic. So once I really got in my adulthood and I started to find out who I was, what I always wanted, my goal, my dream, what I really wanted, physically speaking, was just to have a family, have a wife, have children, and that was all I cared about. So as time went on, I started to get impatient. It got really hard. And it got to the point where I would go out anytime I was out in town and I would see a woman who I found even mildly attractive. It would just drive me up the wall, because I was just, entering into my prime, my physical and sexual prime and everything else. And I was just, and of course, going to the beach was just 100 times harder, because you're seeing women walking around in bikinis and just everything about it. And of course, in the video that I released before this one, I talked about how that our society is very hypersexualized. So no matter who you are, especially if you're an abstinent servant of Yah, you're abstaining from relationships or sex, you have to really struggle much harder than really anyone before ever has, because we live in an age of sex. Everything's about sex, 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 sex. And I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it was extremely hard, and I have battled with it a lot as I have really come into my prime. And I turned 30 last year. I'll actually be turning 31 here in about 2 months. Not quite 2 months now, about I guess a month and a half or so. And in the midst of those struggles, along with all the other struggles and things that Father allowed me to go through, mental struggles and all kinds of other stuff, I've come to learn or realize something. Serving Father and abstaining from things is hard. It is very difficult to look at the world and look at what people have that's considered normal. And it's very difficult to not have it, because our minds do this thing where it works up what it would be like if we had that thing. Now, here's the irony of it. Our fantasies, the things that our minds think up, about 95 times out of 100, what our mind thinks up is actually not how than it would actually go. I remember, my mother told me so many times when, she's my confidant. She's a Nevi, a prophet for Father, and she's my counsel. And so many times I would talk to her about the struggles I was experiencing of being alone, not having a wife, and just being celibate, abstinent, not having a woman. And my mother would tell me so many times, she would say, I understand why you feel this way because you've never been in a serious relationship. You're still a virgin. You're still alone. She said, but what you fantasize, what you think up in your head about relationships is not what it's like at all. She said, relationships in real life is hard. It's very hard. It's extremely stressful. It is a monstrous task that most people don't take a quarter seriously as they should. And, it's one thing to hear somebody tell you that, but it doesn't do away with the desires. And we all know what that's like. I mean, somebody can talk to us till they're blue in the face, but until we experience it ourselves, it's very difficult to truly believe it and grasp it because we haven't experienced it ourselves. But what I have come to realize about serving Father and doing without things, abstaining from things to do his purpose, whatever his purpose may be for you, it's that there's no magic word. There's no clever little remedy you're going to take that's going to remove the desires for the things that you have, that you don't have, that you've abstained from. That's just a fact. You can have all the faith in the world. You can believe in Father's promises. You can believe there's something better coming. You can believe that what you're doing has a purpose and a meaning, but it doesn't make the desires go away. But what I have come to see as a truth is that when you go so far with Father on a path of faith, there comes a point where we can't go back. Because when we get so deep with him, so deep in with him, and we believe so much, there comes a point where, and this is really where Father honestly puts us in a position where we are guaranteed to succeed in our service, even when there are times that we think we're going to fail, or times when we just flat out want to give up. And it's this. Father knows that if we have went on believing something about him, believing in our service, believing what we're doing, you can think in your head, well, I'm just going to give up on this. I'm tired of waiting. I'm tired of abstaining from things I don't have. I'm going to give up. I'm just going to give up and just go live a normal life and be done with it. And all that sounds great in theory. I know I've been there. I've done that. I thought that. But here's the thing that is undeniable. If you were to do that, you would forever live with a gnawing sense of guilt in your head, in your mind, in your heart, that what if I was wrong? You will never be able to go back to being ignorant again. You'll never be able to go back to being innocent. You will always have the knowledge of, I gave up on it. I gave in. And no matter what you do, you could then go out from that point and you could achieve and have everything you denied yourself. But believe me when I tell you this, you are going to poison all those things you get that your heart desired. It's going to be poisoned because you're going to live with a constant shadow and ghost of, I gave up. I gave in. And there's no coming back from that. At that point, it would destroy you. Some of the people who choose to serve Father, he pulls so deeply into his service that even if they wanted to get out, they can't. Mentally, they would never be able to live it themselves. They would never be able to survive with the knowledge of what they did and believed in and then gave up on. I've heard people say things like, well, you can live with a lot. You can put up with a lot. But it's different when it comes to a deep, deep relationship with Father and a deep level of service with Him. There's no changing your mind. There's no going back. And something that I've told myself, because again, we work up fantasies in our head. If there's something that you're abstaining from, something that you're going without to serve Father or whatever it might be, if you're abstaining from something, then you've done what I've done with women, with marriage, relationships. You idealize it in your head. You fantasize about it in your head. You think about what it would be like if you had it. But I've also pragmatically thought about it too, and this is part of what Father does to really help me is, I could renounce everything that I believe tomorrow, and I could stop doing what I'm doing. I could go out. I could live a normal life, but who I am, what I have done in Father service, and how I believe now, it is ingrained in me. It is ingrained in my head. And I realize that if I were to go out, probably 90-some% of the women that I would meet are not going to share the kind of very, not just old-fashioned, but unorthodox views that I have. And good luck trying to find one that you're attracted to that you think is going to make a great mate and maybe really beautiful or just you're attracted to, and who also thinks as weird as what you do is like, how I do, because my faith and the way I believe in Father and the kind of very unique views that I have, it has structured my mentality, the way that I think, the way I see things. And I have told myself before, even if you got with you went out and you try to meet a woman, who would be a match for you with how you think and how you believe? Father is really the only one who can bring you the ideal mate who is going to be perfect for you, who's going to think the way you do with your beliefs. And I mean, I couldn't go, I've told myself this, I couldn't go and get a secular woman, a woman who has no faith, who's just a normal woman, because if she has sort of more liberal, progressive, feminist views, then that would clash very hard with someone like me, and it wouldn't work out. And that's very common today with a lot of women. And in the same breath, I couldn't go and get a Christian woman who might have more conservative traditional values, because I'm not a Christian. I am a child of Yah. I don't believe in so many of the pagan doctrines of Christianity. So the paganized doctrines that so much of the Christian church has adopted. So I could never be with a normal Christian woman, because she and I would buck heads just as severely on theology as me and some feminist, some liberal woman. So I've told myself these things before, but there's a point to all this. There's a reason why I've used myself in my own strugglings and sufferings and things I battle with here over the last very recently. There's a reason why I've shared this with you. It's because we make things up to be a certain way in our head. We fantasize things. And when we don't have something, when we're abstaining from something, all we can think about is having it and all the great things about having it. That's all we can do. But I'm telling you right here now, if you were to give up on Father and go out and try to just get what you've been denied, it is not going to be like you fantasized it in your head. Reality is going to dump a very cold bucket of water on you. Secondly, there's no going back on Father, because He will sear your heart and your mind with a hot branding iron. Literally. He will sear you to your very spirit. and you will never be able to live with yourself. Everything you do in your life from that point on, you will have guilt. You will think about it. It will taint everything you do after that. Once we become fathers, and especially once we decide to serve Him, that's it. It's a lifelong commitment. There's no getting out. There's no welching. There are many, 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 many things. Honestly, we can welch on just about everything else in life, even if we shouldn't. But if you try to welch out on Father and you try to renounce on Him, you will live with the perpetual, unyielding guilt and shame and doubt every single day of your life. And it will never get better. It will always be there. Always. It'll be the specter that never fails to haunt you. And the reason I'm telling you this is because, yes, it is hard, so hard, to abstain from anything for the sake of Father, for the sake of serving Him. And there are times that you want the things you've abstained from so badly that you can all but taste it. And sometimes it drives you just insane. But take heart in this knowledge. You can't give up on Him. You can't fail. Once you start on this path with Him, there's no going back. You are on it. And you will be on it until the day you leave this plane. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how much sometimes you want to give up, you want to say, I'm done, I throw in the towel. You're never going to get to that point where you're actually going to say those words and do it, because you're going to know and realize, you're going to know every time. And Father is going to do this. Father is the one who does this. He will literally bring it so viscerally to your mind that, but if I do, I will never be able to forgive myself. I will live in perpetual doubt that I made the wrong decision for the rest of my life. And it's a guilt that will literally, it will cripple us, it will destroy us. So thankfully, serving Father and doing His will is not contingent on how obedient and how deeply our faith runs. It has everything to do with the fact that Father is a no-take-backsies kind of Elohim. He is very much so. He's not an Indian giver, and He will not accept anybody Indian giving to Him. He's like, once you offer, that's it. And there's no refunds. And once you're mine, that's it. That's all there is to it. So, no matter how hard it gets, and no matter what thoughts run through your head, you're going to get through it, and you're going to do it, and you're going to succeed. There's no other options. Literally, there's none. You're going to have the hardest moments sometimes. You're going to feel like you are at your wit's end sometimes, to where you think you're right there on the edge. But Father's never going to let you cross the edge, because you're going to know that you could not live with yourself if you ever crossed that edge. So I hope in some way that this is inspiring to you, because I know that I have felt this many times with the things I've had to do without and abstain from and be disciplined on. And it has helped me when I remind myself of this. And I hope it does the same for you. So that's it.